Hey everyone, Tim Blankenship here with divorce661.com. Today we're here with Judith Weigle. And Judith, I forgot the name of your company. Divorce Resource Inc. I did have it. I was prepared. Do you go by Judy or Judith?
Both. It's very confusing.
Okay.
I have an identity crisis.
Okay. So I will mix it up then for you. So Judy and I do the same business essentially at the grassroots. We're both legal document assistants, and I won't bore our audience with what that is, although we probably should.
No, we really should, Tim.
We should just a high level, because some people in our industry they really beat it down, like what an LDA is. But it is important because I think it's important that we distinguish what legal document assistants are from a legal standpoint, and what we have to do to become licensed and all that. But I don't want to spend 20 minutes on it either. But because you probably get this a lot, same as I do, is that people out there as paralegals who shouldn't be doing this, or technically, there's probably more of them than there are of us, and the confusion between the two, and the fact that they shouldn't be doing it, and then causing problems, and we have to fix it, because we know what we're doing. We're registered and bonded to do all that stuff. Judy, you also are a mediator as well, which I thought would be great to talk to you about, because I do not touch mediation. I stay in my lane. I tried it for 5 seconds and realized immediately it is not for me. I don't know how you do it. In fact, I
love it. I love it
more.
more.
You love it, huh?
Oh my God, Tim, I can't tell you how much I enjoy mediation. Mediation to me is creative problem solving. And I love creative problem solving. The hard thing about it, which is why not everybody can do it, is you have to remain neutral. You can't teach people the law. You really have to make sure they see attorneys first. And if they don't, you have to take the assumptive position they know what they're talking about and proceed on. But the reason why I like mediation so much is because it can resolve some unspoken issues between the two spouses that never got resolved. So it's not really therapy, but in the discussion of how you divide assets and debts, how you create the co-parenting plan, how you want to deal with child support, all those big ticket items. In the process of doing that, it uncovers some unresolved issues, and that's why people fight. They have unresolved issues. And I not only feel really good when I see that melt away, but I have several examples over the last 11 years of family law mediation that I'm so proud of. That meant that I listened hard for where the compromise points could be beyond what was obvious. And they felt so good that there was an option available that wasn't his option, that wasn't her option, or that wasn't his or his option, or hers option. We got to take in everybody in forces. They felt so good that something completely different could be so they both won. So anyway, I love mediation. But as we were talking a while ago, my mediator colleagues say to me, Judy, why do you get all the high stress people in your office? The stories I have to tell are so different than what my colleagues tell me. I said, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm the person that can help them beyond anybody else. Maybe I just have that energy that attracts their energy. But Tim, honestly, one of my more famous, unbelievable mediations was 3 or 4 6-hour mediations.
Wow.
Is your head ready to blow off? And you've been in law enforcement and the military. And all they wanted me to do was sit there. They didn't even want me to talk. They wanted me to witness them talking.
Oh my God.
Okay, if you want to pay me for that, that's fine. And there was nothing to divide. They owned nothing.
Yeah.
They were just processing.
That's the best.
Okay, so I love mediation. That's really cool. But here's how I describe, and let's talk about what you and I do in common for a living, the filing.
Yes. And just before we get into that, we do the same business. So people might be saying, why are we even talking together? And this is one reason I want to do this. I want to also in talking about the differences in what we do, because while we do the same thing, we do them entirely differently. And I probably would bet we have entirely different clients. So in that way, we are not really competitors. Different locations. I'm in Santa Clarita area of LA. You're in the west side of LA. Did I get that? Right. And I have been trying to spread the word on what we do, as opposed to like we were talking to about the difference with us and paralegals and so forth. But in trying to reach out, and I don't know if you've experienced this or even tried to do that, to try and speak with other people in our profession, maybe not your mediation folks, that's more high touch, but just in the LDA, legal document preparation world, there's this fear of lack of business that they don't even want to jump on a call like this or have a talk and share ideas, because there's some type of, I don't know what it is. They want to be in control of their business, and maybe by talking about it, they may think they're promoting someone else, or they'll lose business or something like that. I feel like there's this what's the word I'm looking for? Lack of abundance, perhaps, would be the.
Interesting.
Are you seeing that at all? I just want to talk about that real quick, and because I see, because we both do. I have like almost 1,800 YouTube videos. I'm doing 3 or 4 a day now. You have podcasts. You're doing interviews. I saw a TEDx. I was just watching some stuff because we kind of fell out of touch. Just I'm sure because we're extremely busy. But that's one thing I want to talk on too, is just bringing forward LDAs and trying to, and this was going to say when we're off air, is that maybe we even do this together where let's grab LDAs and let's reach out to folks and talk about their business. It's not going to hurt our business. It's just going to bring them more business. And by the way, people, even if everyone is in the same boat, people are gonna decide, hey, I like Tim better. Oh, I don't like Tim, or I don't like LDAC. I didn't like what you know what I mean? They make decisions already. So I think by helping one, we're helping all.
Okay, first of all, I don't feel competitive at all with anybody.
Exactly.
I don't think it's necessary. I learn from everybody, because even on the podcast, I bring other mediators on. I have interviewed other LDAs. I just like sharing information with people, and I figure whatever business I'm going to get is going to come to me. Whatever business you're going to get is
exactly.
And I even called you for help. I need to call my colleagues and ask them questions, because things come up that I haven't dealt with before, and it does with everybody.
Of course.
Yeah. So
and as we were talking earlier, like just with judgments and paperwork, it's not always A equals A. It's like the Wild West when you're dealing with different courts and different clerks and each case is different. And while you think there'd be a standardized process across the board, and I'm not talking just about between different courts, but I'm talking about the same courtroom or 2 different clerks in 2 different departments within, say, central downtown. One case gets approved, identical case gets rejected, and why? Right. So sharing those ideas and just knowing I don't see a lot of collaboration between other LDAs in our industry. It sounds like you've gotten a few on, but I've gotten a lot of resistance. I get a lot of calls for help. In fact, probably aside from people who are watching my content on YouTube, and probably yours as well, I talk a lot about like forms and how to do forms and all that stuff, and the check boxes, like the real specific stuff. And I know that some of those views are other LDAs or paralegals, and and that's fine. I'm glad I'm being able to help. And some will reach out and call, say, hey, I have this case going on. Can you help me work through the issues? And of course, but I get more resistance from, it's 90% resistance, 10% people want to collaborate. What are you finding?
Well, look how we reconnected. I called you because I knew where you were located. I had just gotten a client out of Palmdale, and I needed to know if this was the right courthouse.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't take any clients north of. No, I'm just kidding.
No, and so I said, no, I've called your office a few times for that, and you were so wonderful. You told me, file downtown. And so I did. I filed downtown. It worked perftly. So
you did. You were able to do that.
Advice. Of course, perfect. I took your advice. No. I considered it great. But to a point that you had in terms of how different courthouses are, There are two things people need to know about the landscape that we work in for them, not for us, but for them. And that is, not all judges operate the same. There are too many judges in the family law courthouses who never practiced family law. So now they're assigned, I mean, shockingly so, right? Now they're assigned to a family law bench, and they bring what they think are the right rules to the bench. And if we file something that doesn't follow what they think is supposed to be done in some way, they reject a form, and then you have to do it differently. And I found this out years ago. There's a wonderful, lovely judge at one of the courthouses, I don't even want to say where, at one of the courthouses, who I think is a great judge, but he did not practice family law. Therefore, when I have a case that's going unilaterally, meaning the respondent got to be served, but he or she is not participating at all, there's a certain process that this particular judge wants people to follow who are filing for them. That's not law. It's not required. And if the respondent has disappeared after they've been served, which they can, what this judge wants us to do on the second set of disclosures, which is personally serving them, how do you do it with somebody you can't find?
Right.
Well, it's not even
Makes no sense.
required by law. What's
Makes no
required
sense.
is you can do it by email, but he won't allow it, and that makes me nuts.
Yeah.
And so I have to explain that to them. And then there's another courthouse where I filed something correctly and I knew it, and it got rejected for the wrong reason. So I called the courthouse and I said, well, out of respect to the court, I will follow up. But I do believe this is procedurally incorrect. And it was very nice. You always are very nice when you call.
You have to be, because they,
oh my God, yeah. Oh my, or they'll never help you. Okay. So I said, I don't believe this is procedurally correct. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've done this many, many times. And the clerk said, hang in there. Let me call the judge's clerk. And she calls the judge's clerk and says, the judge's clerk agrees with you. It's procedurally incorrect. And you have to do it anyway, because that's what the judge wants.
Wow.
And then I said, okay, I will follow the judge's instructions, but let me just ask this one question. Did the judge come from another area of law other than family law? And the answer was yes. And I said,
can I ask, not without saying which court, was it LA County?
Oh, it was LA County. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just, I think there are 30-ish, maybe not that many, maybe 20. Maybe you know how many family law courtrooms downtown, but there's the most, obviously, being the central courthouse. But yeah, every courtroom is run differently. And in most cases, LA County, we have the benefit of it being probably one of the busiest counties for divorce in all of California. Downtown, especially, seeing the most, aside from the branch courts, definitely maybe more combined than all branch courts combined, is what I'm trying to say. So they see more, but because they're so busy, usually, like you say, it's the judge's clerk, the judicial assistant, approving these based on the judge's parameters. The judge isn't reviewing these. People think the judge is signing their name. They're not. This is the judicial assistant doing that. I used to work down court before doing this. But they are given parameters of what the expectations are. So it can vary so much that I have had cases, like I was saying earlier, approved in one courtroom and rejected in another. And I would literally, you'll pick up the phone. I won't, because they won't, you don't know who you're talking to down there, but I will write a letter to the judicial assistant named on the reject letter, attach a prior, based on their rejection, I'll attach the approval letter of another case and say, how are you rejecting this on issue A when this has been approved 4 days ago in courtroom B? So, and then miraculously it's approved. So,
oh, that's funny.
So anyways,
okay, let's go back to the beginning, what you said, because I think you really brought up something so important, Tim.
Yeah.
That is, what do LDAs do? What do legal document preparation companies really do, and what don't they do?
So
That's
the
all.
20-second, yeah, just the 20-second version, because here's the thing about LDAs. They will beat it into the ground. If you go to their website, various LDAs, they will they will more tell you what they don't do than what they do. And I know that's because of the association and that's what they want you to say. And I think there's a fear behind saying the wrong things. But the difference is paralegals you cannot hire a paralegal to do your paperwork who is not working for an attorney. Thus, you need to hire the attorney and they can then have their paralegal do the work. A lot of paralegals are out there doing what we're doing, either on the side, never got the registration or had the qualifications to do what we do, which I'll talk about in a second, but do it anyways. There's zero oversight. They never get called to the carpet. I can tell you some horror stories of people that went to some of these folks, and the problem I have with it is that they will do the paperwork incorrectly. They charge a quarter of what we charge. They take the money, they file some paperwork, they disappear, they never call them back. Now, when they come to us, now they're on edge. They've already been taken advantage of. They put us all in the same bucket, and they don't know. And then I have to tell them, hey, look it, we are this and that, and this is what we had to do what we're doing, which are for a legal document assistant. There's a couple different ways you can do that. I don't know all the different tracks. But the more education you have, the less experience you need, right? I think that's kind of, if you have a 4-year degree, I want to say you only need a little bit of experience working for an attorney, maybe 6 months or a year. I don't know the parameters exactly, but down to if you have a 2-year degree, like an associate's degree, you need like a year of working for an attorney or working for the courts or something like that. But you definitely need to have specific experiences. And I think there's 3 levels. Like if it's an ABA law school, I think that you have less experience. I haven't looked at that in years. I know that my experience was having worked for a law firm, having worked for the courts, and then I have a non-ABA associate's degree. So the combination of those experiences allows me to be an LDA. And then, of course, you have to have the bond. You have to register every 2 years, and then plus the 60 units of continuing education, maybe 40. There's continuing education. So while there is oversight for the registration, so if you're working with a registered LDA in your county, they have at least those qualifications. It doesn't mean that they're good at what they do necessarily. Right. It just means they've met the qualifications to be doing that. So at least it's not some run-of-the-mill paralegal service that we are dealing with daily up here. We have a lot in the San Fernando Valley that we've had people forging fee waivers. So I just got to tell you some of these stories real quick. I've been doing, so I know we've been doing this about the same amount of time, 2011, 2012-ish, right? So we have seen just everything with courts and different paralegal services that shouldn't be doing this to begin with. We've had people charging $700, $500, but the court fee it's $1,000, right? And then what they're doing is they will generate fake fee waivers on the client's behalf, file those, get those approved, and then keep the court fee. So they think the client's only paying them $500 or $600 for their.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. And I have called the court supervisor. I've written letters. I've provided evidence. I had written declarations for clients for them to sign and say, hey, I did, because we had one that was a doctor. He's like, I feel like I've committed fraud because they forged his name. So I had him write a declaration just to try and get these people off the map. Maybe the bar association, they will come down on people if you enough attention. I wrote a letter to the bar, nothing, not a peep. They're still in business, still doing their thing. It's just crazy. But that was a little bit of a tangent. I know we were talking about LDAs versus paralegals. It is different. Paralegals need to work under the guise of an attorney supervising them. Therefore, you have to hire the law firm, and then they can dish out the work to the paralegal. But I'm always telling people you need to ask, if they are an LDA or not. But that word, I advertise as a paralegal.
Nobody, it doesn't stay in anybody's consciousness. Let me give you my 10-second version.
Yeah,
a legal
please.
document preparation company is between hiring an attorney and doing it yourself.
Perfect.
That's the middle ground that you choose. The hard part for people, now they do get that initially when I'm talking to them, but see, here's what I get because I'm a mediator. Judy, we want to be divorced by a mediator. You did so-and-so's divorce. They were happy, and so we're calling you. So I have to explain. Mediators do not get you divorced. Mediators help you with the settlement agreement. Document preparation people get you divorced. It's all about filing. I happen to do both. So let's talk about the document preparation service that I have. Now, the hard part, and so they get it on the phone, and that's fine. Now reality sets in, and they're working through the paperwork, the disclosure forms, and because the disclosure forms represent the settlement, that's the foundation from where the settlement is going to come. If they're not trusting of one another, if they're a little suspicious, he's never really or she's never really told me everything about every bank account they have. If they come into it suspicious, then they're going to ask me, like they would ask an attorney, to speak for them to the other spouse and encourage the other spouse. And I say, I can't do that. I can't do that. That would be representing you. So that is what I find is the difficulty in people understanding exactly what we do, because they do need legal advice at times. So I have, like you, probably a slew of attorneys. This is a legal advice question. When they ask me, I say, I can't really answer that. I know the answer, but I can't give it to you. This has to come from an attorney. And when I get them confident to call an attorney, you don't have to pay a $7,500 retainer, and book them for half an hour, pay half an hour fee. Don't ask them to work for free for you. Do not do that.
Then you get the sales pitch.
Yeah, but these people are trained. They spent money on their education. Pay them.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work for free. So that, Tim, is what I think is the difficulty in people understanding our role in their divorce life.
I think we could get a lot out of a conversation about, although our what we do is similar, I think we get a lot about some of the differences about how we go about doing it, because there are, obviously, especially with us, we know what those known differences are, because everyone's going to treat their business differently how they operate. One of those being, and we had brought up about, which was shocking to me that you said about, there are LDAs that they will only work with one spouse. That's just one part. That's just one part of what I want to talk about. But I want to start it off by talking about the differences between your service and my service, because they are polar differences in how the types of clients I want and the type of clients that you want. And I think, it would make for an interesting conversation.
Okay.
So when we reconnected a few weeks ago, in that conversation about the nullity paperwork, I had mentioned, I said, hey, Judy, your service is high touch. And because, it almost has to be, because you're doing mediation. So by default, it is high touch. Whereas my business, I focus on the more straightforward divorce cases, to the point where now, fortunately, and I'm sure you feel the same way, we have an ability to have kind of client selection, if you will, meaning we have these, I think you do free consultations as I do. And I do them to find out what the issues are and explain our service, but also to see if they are a good fit within what I like to do, and the level of involvement I get will play up as far as their case. Like you were saying earlier about them, being concerned about their spouse not disclosing assets or things like that. When I hear that on the phone on the consultation, the hairs on the back of my head go up, because I'm already like, well, there's already some contention, distrust, and I'll tell them straight out, look, if that is your concern, I am not the person to get involved just to mediate that. We can start the paperwork and we can start getting into the process and we can get to that part. And if you still have those issues, you guys can go to a third party mediator, get that resolved. If that solves it, and then come back and then we can finalize. But I don't get involved in any of that. Whereas you, as the mediator, and you were talking earlier about need to kind of divide these up, like here's my LDA duties and here's my mediation duties, right? Mm-hmm. And you can bring them into the fold, because you're going to start with that mediation process, I imagine. How does that look like with you and with people coming in?
traditionally, up until this year, I didn't mediate until we did the disclosure exchange. I needed to see everything that we
That
were
makes sense.
talking about.
That makes sense.
But interestingly, Tim, this year, there have been more people that wanted to mediate before we even started the filing. It just seems to be like a little new trend. And I thought, okay, I can go with that. I understand that. Some people find it a lot of pressure to file
Yeah.
and then mediate. So if they can sort things out before they file, the filing goes like nothing.
Right.
So I'm flexible to whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I think that definitely has been a trend. Not that I do mediation, but that we've had, like people will call and I'll say, you know what, I don't think that there's two ways you can go. Yes, we can file and start the clock on the 6 months, and then you can go out and mediate. But like you said, sometimes that now it's become real. There's, you're being served and all this, and there's a summons, a petition, and that might add some level of anxiety to the situation, and maybe they do want to get the issues resolved first and then file. On the other side of that, I've had people, because I do get referrals from mediators, both non-attorney and attorney mediators who don't want to do the paperwork. They just want to do the mediation and then move on. And some of those clients are a little upset, not with me, but they're like, oh, I didn't know that the 6 months had it start. So maybe they spent 3 months in mediation. They get handed off to me, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to start the process. And so I will tell them that, like, if I'm going to refer someone to mediator, decide if you want to file. The benefit being you start the clock. Otherwise, you start the clock after mediation. And I mean, if it's not a rush to get it done, you have to balance that with the anxiety of you have a case filed.
Right. That's interesting that you say that, because in different situations, it comes back to me like that too. Oh, I didn't know. Well, we actually did talk about everything. But because I have to. I mean, I have to sort it out. You have to sort it out. Of course, we talked about it. But they're not used to the language. They don't really understand the process. So
it's like,
I understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, we'll be ready to file the judgment package, which, by the way, everybody, it's after the settlement has been made. You write up a settlement agreement, or you do it by forms. But the last filing is the judgment package. And then I'll have somebody email me, Judy, I just wanted to cover my bases, and I went to see an attorney and explained, everything. Have we filed the petition yet? We did that half a year ago. Yes, the divorce. We're in the final stages.
Yeah.
I know it's hard for people. They're in another zone. Divorce is a drag. Well, if it either is or it isn't, even if they're looking forward to being divorced, it's a drag to go through the process. So I get all that. It's just, you just have to be patient. I guess patience is the virtue that we all need, because it's so much hand-holding. And so the amount of hand-holding becomes our differential too, doesn't it? So say how you execute your process. I find it very interesting.
What does my process look like? So it does start with a consultation, mandatory. Well, I have to, I'll go into what's happening lately, but I make it very clear on my website through my videos that we handle, I don't want to say simple divorces, meaning you can't have kids or assets and debts and all that. Just one, it has to be 100% amicable, cooperating, participating. That is, I don't care. We've done cases with 8 kids, $1 million estates, 17 homes. We've done all that. That doesn't add the complication. What adds the complication is the people. The people add the complication. So as long as they tell me they are amicable, cooperative, and if they don't have to be in agreement, but that they will work to reach an agreement, whether that's on their own at the kitchen table, or if they need to go see a mediator, then they will become a client of ours. Prior to the pandemic, I closed. I didn't close. I still have my offices, but I went remote, so no longer seeing clients in face to face. And I did that because even of our local clients, maybe 5% would actually come in. People could live, literally, I could throw a rock from the building and hit their house and they would be emailing me. So I said, okay, this is a waste of money. So for me, pre-pandemic, maybe 8 months before it happened, I have a home office where I'm at now. I have a dedicated office. It's a great space to work. My studio, this is also my studio, obviously, but everything happens from here fully virtual and have now been for 3 years. And I think COVID and the pandemic helped push people that, over that line of like, hey, I want to come in, shake a hand, see a person. I think that helped, now that for that period of time, they had to go shopping online, Amazon, all that. So that helped, and all the Zoom meetings. I still get them once in a while, and I'll tell them, look, I understand. And unfortunately, that's not our service. So ours is, I do everything now. I used to have 5 employees. I know you used to have a staff before as well. I don't know if you do now still. So I do everything, and I've been fortunate to really be into automation, trying, systems to send out reminders and take a lot of, basically act as an employee for me for follow-up and reminders and all that. But when people come in, I have a specific system that they fall into. We have the consultation. I send out I give them a quote, flat fee price. This is what it's going to be. No more, no less. This is what it's going to cost to get it done. I don't know if you can still see me, but my computer just went dark.
No, I can totally see you.
Okay. I think my screen froze. So
you are talking, and now you're moving.
Okay, perfect. And so I will send them an email with what I would need to get the ball rolling. I send them a link that will then put them into the system. They provide me the initial information for the summons, petitions, names, addresses, data mail, all that good stuff. And there's also a link in there to retain me. Once those two things are done, I get notified. I put them into I have a portal where I put both spouses and myself. And that's where the transaction occurs. No more email, no more individual back and forth. It goes into the portal. I add them. I send out a welcome email with some videos to explain my process. And I complete the initial documents. I have them electronically sign the initial documents within the portal. I e-file them with the court. And that's what starts off the process. Then I have a worksheet that goes out for them to work on the terms of their settlement. I provide them the disclosure forms. I have them do those. I stopped doing those years ago because it's basically them giving it to me and then I'm writing it on the form. Might as well just have them write it on the form themselves. So I just provide them, say, hey, these need to be completed. I don't need them. I don't collect them. You guys are going to complete them and sign them. They don't get filed with the court. And then I just have a worksheet and say, at the end of the day, I need you to provide me the terms. Here's the assets and debts husband's going to keep. Here's and I have prompts. I give them examples. Here's some different solutions about custody and all that. And they will provide me in just plain English, the general layout. I draft their settlement agreement, and then we kind of go back and forth with a couple of revisions. But it's a very quick process where spouses have either already come to an agreement or have mostly reached an agreement. Because sometimes they don't some will say, hey, I need mediation. They'll say, what is the issue? And they said, oh, we just need some help on spouse part. I'm like, okay, I can help you with that. I can run some calculations. You don't need true mediation in that regard.
Right.
So most of our cases are done start to finish in a week. For the most part, I'm totally done with them. They've signed, notarized. I had all preloaded to be e-filed with the court well before we can submit, because of we do these as default with agreement type cases. We purposely don't have the response filed so we can save them a little money on court fees, and submit that when we can, when it's time appropriate. And that's how 90% of our cases go. Some go a little sideways or take a little longer, and that's fine too. They have some hiccups, so they may need some mediation or something like that. But I try and, with my consultations, be very specific in the type of clients I want. So we don't have, I don't want to call them problem clients, but clients that's not my ideal client coming in, because it can take a lot of my time. Whereas we're handling a lot of cases versus I'm not spending 6 hours in mediation over 4 days like you were talking about earlier.
Right. That was over 2 years, by the way.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
So just to show the differences, I'd like you to explain what yours looks like.
I think the term high touch was the perfect term. I have thought about that since we talked a couple weeks ago.
You want to know why I came up with that word? Because when I would talk to clients in consultations, and I could tell they needed more attention than my service provides. I kept using the word hand holding, and I think it was being received offensively. Like 'cause I kept saying, like, if you need more hand holding, like, you're a baby, And so I came up with high touch. So I'll say that if you need more high touch, where someone's really and that was more successful.
No, it was successful with me as well because I thought, oh God, he really defined it properly. So, like you, when we're doing the consultations, there's as much for us as they are for the clients. So we all
Exactly.
know whether we are a right fit. We're all evaluating each other. I will hear, like you hear, if that there might be difficulties where they're not in agreement. And also, Tim, I seem to get people that have high conflict personalities.
Hmm.
And I know that when I'm talking. Either they describe their spouse like that, or they describe their spouse in the way that it fits into some categories
Right.
of high conflict personalities. The only high conflict personalities that I just have to say no to are maybe like paranoid schizophrenic. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing I can do with that. There's no way I can have a conversation and I won't know what page they're on each day. And by the way, my heart goes out to everybody. I even though I may not be able to take the client, my heart goes out to these people. Or maybe they're describing somebody that has been abusive, either financially abusive or physically abusive. I can't have that in my office. I don't want to worry about that. And I actually did an interview on the podcast a month or two ago with an attorney out of Georgia who wanted to talk about attorneys getting killed through the anger of the opposite spouse.
That's
Yeah.
a thing, huh?
I had no idea. And then I had lunch with an attorney in my area after that interview, and I said, David, is that really an issue in Los Angeles? I just did this interview with the woman out of Georgia. He said, oh my gosh, it is. He said,
Really?
I just had a buddy who was shot by the other client because they were angry.
Jeez.
I had no idea. But here's what I did know. Years ago, when I bought this business, the door was never locked. So this was an existing business that I bought from a woman who was dearly loved by people in Los Angeles. I had an office in her suite, and I got to see how she was handling mediation. I wasn't in family law at the time, just doing other types of mediation. She never locked the door. And so anybody could come in the office being angry. And I watched this happen. And I said, oh, no. When I took the company over, I locked the door. And I said, appointment only. I do not honor walk-ins. This is too difficult a business. Because what people say is one thing, but they may not be telling you the truth. There may be stuff they don't want to talk about that they think, oh, you know what, we'll just get divorced. She doesn't need to know. And then, I'm a victim somehow. I don't want to be a statistic. So,
no, for sure.
Yeah, I don't mind the emotions. I don't mind helping people learn how to communicate better to make the situation better. I think for me, and this is where you have overcome that. Don Henley said, the drummer for the Eagles, he said years ago, make sure you like the business that you're in because the repetition could kill you. Meaning, and he said, how many people want Hotel California? Every single audience we play for, we have to play Hotel California. We can't get out of it. And so, for me, there are aspects of I don't want to say hand holding in a pejorative way because I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I think people just need that touchstone person that they can go to without legal advice. But it's it's going through the disclosures. So the disclosures are the thing that are a drag for everybody. They're a drag for the clients. They're a drag for the professionals. Why are they a drag for the professionals? Because we can't get our clients to do them.
To do them.
That's why they're a drag. And I'm like, once they're over, I breathe. I can write the settlement agreement. We can go to mediate. I can make some progress. But I think for me, that's the most difficult thing. And then just that I'm working in an environment that needs constant explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of stopping and starting. It's necessary. It's not, you're not going to get rid of it. I'm not going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I have to be careful about how I handle that. I have to be on my game. I can't be annoyed at anything. So if I find I'm not in a great mood, I do have to watch who I call back. Because I want to be in a great mood when I call them back.
Right.
You know? So that's why I was fascinated now by your thing, by your process. So
yeah,
I really do like when people come in the office, Tim. I actually like the energy in the office. I like meeting people. But Zoom has taken over. So of course I do my fair share of Zoom calls. I do not like doing Zoom mediations. I'd like to put that out to the universe.
I was going to ask you that.
I need people, I mean, I will do them reluctantly. I need people in front of me. I do my best work when I have the interaction here. I like to separate people in different rooms sometimes if I feel I'm not getting the conversation where it needs to be, because there may be some fear, avoidance, maybe somebody's not being upfront, you know, for whatever reason. Nothing, which is just they're not. And I like the office. So to do Zoom mediations, I have to admit that I do need a lesson on closing out one room so you could let the other room talk. That's difficult for me. I'm a little bit of a digital dinosaur.
and I'm on the other spectrum of that.
And you're on the other spectrum of that.
I like to think so, at least, yeah.
Well, I admit it, and I admit it to everybody. It's the way I am. So if you can hang with me,
no, and that's fine. And people will go to you that want that, and vice versa, right? I mean, there's a client for everybody. That's what's beautiful about doing these types of videos. And maybe if we're able to do them more with other LDAs, is they're going to say, well, I liked what that person said, and I'm going to go there. And that's totally fine. At least it's an LDA versus a paralegal.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, people interview me too. Sometimes they call back, sometimes they don't. I mean, it's just the way it is. You never know. With all of us being equal, we're charming, we work well, you still connect differently with different people.
Correct.
And that's the way it is. They should shop, should like who they're dealing with, because you're divulging your most personal information.
Yeah. Well, there's an LDA, there's probably 4 or 5 in Santa Clarita. And I talk with one, and the other ones won't respond to me for some reason. But the one, she's I think she's in her 60s. She used to work for her mom, who was an attorney, and who passed, and now she's been an LDA, and she works from home. She lets people come to her house. She has a little office set up, and also when I get maybe older people they say, hey, I'm not, I'm technologically challenged, or I don't have a computer, or something like that. I'll just tell them, look, that is a complete opposite of my ideal client, and I'll say just go to Gail. I'll say that, because I'm not gonna. It'll be more frustrating for me and them. And I'm not going to try and sell them on using my service if it's not ideal for them as well. So I'll email Gail, say, hey, call it. I'll say, I'm just going to have her call you, and I don't know if they end up working with her, but it definitely was more ideal for both of them versus with me. And it's just, again, going back into the conversation about there's different options for people. We do a lot of video. We do a lot of podcasts. People see what we say. They either like us or they don't. And that's fine.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd like to be Loved and adored by everybody, Tim. Don't know if that's realistic. I really
Yeah.
don't.
Hey, real quick, I know we have to go in maybe 5 minutes or so. I was fascinated of what you told me about. So I work with both clients. It's one thing I left out all the time, mandatory. That if they say, "Hey, my spouse has another paralegal or LDA," or say, then I'll literally tell them, "Then why are you calling me? Go to that. Go to them. Go. They let them handle it. They should be a neutral." And they'll. And now I'm thinking, I guess I am getting them saying, "Well, they won't talk to me," which I'm like, there. I think that is doing this business totally wrong. So when you told me that you have colleagues on the LDA side that they will only work with one spouse, I that is shocking to me. I don't know how you can have a successful business doing that, because how can you say that you can finalize their divorce? How can you promise that? So are they saying, "Hey, I'm only going to do your paperwork"? Are they doing it? Are they trying to do it as a true default with no agreement and just a straight up default? Is that what they're doing?
I believe so, yes. It
Those are the most difficult
Yeah,
cases to get through the court. And guess what? You don't get to make any decisions. You know this. Everything has to be divided equally. That's follows California law.
right. So the times that I have worked with one spouse, which is rare, the times I have worked with one spouse, it's because the other spouse is the petitioner and hired an attorney
Oh,
because
okay.
of comfort level. And there's really no issues with division of anything. So the other spouse has come to me, just file my paperwork, and then the attorney will write up the settlement agreement.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that in that case it works.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, if there, I don't think it works. I agree with you. I don't think two LDAs, one working with one spouse, I don't think it works at all. First of all, we can't talk for these people.
No,
All we can do is serve the documents, but not on the LDA, on the
no.
spouse themselves.
Yeah.
So it's very restrictive to work like that. And I do the same as you. If I have the respondent call me, their spouse is working with an LDA, I say the same thing. Then please go to that LDA.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
going to be too rough for us to work together.
Right.
And Tim, this is the weirdest thing, and I don't understand it. I get along with most attorneys. So if there's an attorney on the other side, I generally am okay serving and, working within this environment. I've only worked on the other side of two LDAs, and it's never felt right
Mm.
because the LDAs in these two cases kind of operated like attorneys. They
That
wanted to represent and not fight. There's another word for just represent and start talking about the settlement. And I'm like, we're not allowed to do that.
yeah.
I
And
can't
it
believe
kind of
that.
puts you in that gets you in dangerous area of waters there as far as negotiating, like as if you're representing. I did a video 6 or 7 years ago and said, stop. It was like, hey, a message to LDAs: stop thinking you're an attorney because you're going to get yourself in trouble. Like that's exactly what. So I don't take anything close. If one party has an attorney, nope, automatically not going to work with them. If they have another LDA, I said, either you go work with that LDA. If they won't, I need you both to come over to me, and I will take over for both of you. Like
Yeah.
I don't need any third party, because then the other thing you're going to run into, and that what I saw when I was, earlier on when we started this business, we couldn't be so selective on who we took. So what would happen is, oh, well, that LDA is saying this should be done. No, that's not right. This is how it's done. They're saying, and so there's this, you're having that same wrong information that we still see these days from like other paralegals, then
Yeah.
confusing the client.
I forgot about that. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. But yeah,
Man,
I
Tim,
don't,
an hour went really fast here, by the way.
and I know you need to go, but hey, consider, and even if we just got on and talked about the problems that we see day to day with the courts and clients. We didn't even talk about our clients, not that we want to talk about them specifically, but just to say that these are the things that come up. So, I think it'd be very interesting back and forth.
I'm up for that. I'm absolutely
Awesome.
up for that because I think it is to the benefit of the client anyway to hear a dialogue inside the industry so that you can choose who can help you better. Even if it's not us, you go to somebody else. Now you know a little bit more about how this particular aspect of filing works.
Exactly. And I would love to refer my clients to you that need mediation, because if they do, it's very limited. It's not a full on, it's not emotional abuse, not financial abuse. It's none of that. It's just they need a little bit more high touch hand holding. We'll use it together to get through just one or two issues that they can't seem to do on their own. And that
Right.
15 minutes on the phone with me did not give them the information they need to make the decision.
Yes.
And so I think Zoom wise, you'd be okay with that, because it's not going to be that whole room to room. And, because
Right.
our
Exactly.
mediator got run out of town. We had one non-attorney mediator, and I don't mean run out of town, like run out of town. They did it for so long and they retired. And like a year went by and I said, "Hey, who are you referring to for mediation?" She goes, "Well, we're taking some, but we're not fully retired, but we're doing it all video." And she goes, "I just got tired of being beat up and being the punching bag for all these years in divorce." And I said, that's what I felt for the 12 minutes I did that.
Well, I guess I kind of like being beat up. I
You
don't
you
feel
it,
like that. You see, I don't feel that way. I
that's
actually
good. You're
do
meant
not
for it.
feel that way. I am excited before every mediation starts. I'm not nervous at all. And I look forward to it. And once we get into it, I kind of want to know where I can be helpful. So, no, I think this is really my right gig. I do.
Perfect. Perfect. Well,
So bring
Judy, it's a pleasure talking to you. We should do this again.
Okay.
Just let me know. Let's keep in touch, even if it's just by email, just bouncing things off each other.
Thank you. And thank you for the help that you gave me for that one case. I
Oh,
really appreciate it.
absolutely. I do. We are in the help profession, and that is extended to obviously our people in our industry. I'm going to end off real quick. Just hang out for just a second.
Okay.